Hello guys, my name is Shima Benjamin Ahire and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. I have my name spelt over there. Can be difficult for some people to pronounce sometimes. Anyway, this is a beginner Python tutorial. I am running Python 3.11 on a 64-bit machine. And if you haven't downloaded it, if you want to download Python, you can find it at python.org. Okay, let's get down to business. Python is a simple to use general purpose interpreted programming language. Its syntax is easy to understand and it has very wide application in several fields of IT like data science, artificial intelligence, back-end web development, mobile and desktop applications, etc. Alright, the main thing I wanted to introduce you guys to today was Python data types. Now, every programming language has its data types, which are mostly similar. Some might have different names, but represent the same thing. Like you might see number in other programming languages, but that number is still an integer. You might see long, you might see things like that, but they usually represent the same kind of data. Alright, here we have integers. In Python, integers are basically just whole numbers. I forgot to put one example here because you could see minus 234. Let's just say that will also be a whole number in Python. Floating point numbers are numbers that have decimal places. The difference between floating point numbers and integers is the decimal point. The decimal point introduces some level of precision to a float, which is what really differentiates it. For like if you look at 6.2 minus 6.2 over here and look at minus 234 over here, what makes this a float and this an integer is this decimal point. That's the difference between them. And next we have strings. A lot of people like to refer to strings as words. Well, words are strings, but not only words. We have over here we have a decimal number, but as long as it's wrapped in quotation marks, it is a string. I put this other string here, Python tutorial. I put it in single quotes so that you understand that you can wrap your strings in both double and single quotes. And if you have a floating point number like this, if it's in quotes, it's also a string. You have this, it's a string. You have this without the quotation marks, this would be an integer, but it has the marks, so it makes it a string. Now, next up we have Boolean values. The Boolean data type, it has two types. It is true or false. And usually we represent these with a 1 and a 0 sometimes. Like true or false are obviously valid keywords in Python, but sometimes in our programming we use ones and zeros to represent them. Now I put these here so that you understand that Python is it doesn't joke around with cases. It's a very case sensitive language. So this true here is not the same as this true here, and this false here is not the same as this false. As you can as you might have noticed, these are color coded. You can see that the numerical values, floats and integers, have one color. You can see strings have another color, and you can see booleans have their own color. Now, this is just besides the point, but Python has other reserved keywords. Let me just show us those. We have and, we have, what was I trying to write here? Was it? We have and, we have finally, we have with, we have is, we have except. I chose to write these here because they are like common English words that someone might make a mistake and maybe choose to name a variable or define a function with or something. So these are more like almost everyday words that we speak every day. So I decided to just pick these out. There's a lot more, but I just decided to show these ones because people might tend to make mistakes with these before any others. Okay, so those are other Python keywords. Now these these data types can be handled in different forms. Obviously, we know like arithmetic operations can be performed on numbers like in everyday life, but we cannot do that on strings. If you do that with a string, what will happen? You just what we call concatenation. Like if you try to add two strings together, it will just join them together. There's no way, like let's say two words or a word and a number can give you like the answer to an addition. So obviously, if you were to try Ben plus Python tutorial, it will just give you Ben Python tutorial without a space. If you wanted a space there, you have to like uh, use an empty string like this. So you could say like Ben plus empty string plus what was that again? Then we could have Python tutorial over there. So it will add Ben to the empty string to the then it will give you this space between the two words. If this wasn't there, if you just put Ben and Python tutorial, it would just like put them together and just mush it together like that. Okay. So now I would like to talk about variables. A variable is a container or a block of memory that holds a value for us or some type of data. Variables, yeah, that's just the best way I can explain it. Containers, basically, let's just say they're containers. They hold every kind of data type that we have. They can hold every kind of data type that we have in Python. That's why I defined the first one here with an integer, the second one here with a string, and then you can also assign multiple values to variables in a single line. So here I put score 1, new student, and I assigned the value 100 to score 1, and I assigned the string Ahire to new student. I wrote new student like this because in a moment I'm going to talk about naming conventions. So the order in which we arrange these variables is very important because on the other side it's going to assign the values exactly as they are arranged to the matching variables on the left side. So now let's talk about naming conventions. Now you can use a single letter like this. You can use to name your variables. You can use a single letter like this. It can be lowercase, it can be uppercase. Uh, you can use numbers in your variables, but they cannot come like before the variable name. You see, one has been highlighted there showing it's an integer. So you can use an underscore, but you cannot use white spaces. You cannot like var space 1. You see, 1 has become its integer back. So you use underscores. We don't use white spaces in naming variables, but you can use capital letters, you can use lowercase letters, and you can use underscore. You can basically play around with it, but besides these things that I just told you. So this is called an assignment operator. It's not your equality sign like you know in mathematics. This in Python, when you use one equality sign, you're using it to assign a value to a variable. You're using it to assign values. If you were to check for equality in Python, you would use two equality signs. This is arithmetic equal to in Python, two equality signs. So here we're assigning values. If I were to check like if a is equal to 2, I would have done it like this. Like when we get to control flow, we'll do stuff like that. Okay, so this is variables. We'll talk more about that. We have reserved keywords here, which we have already spoken about, so I'll leave that here for a minute. Okay, I should have told you about this right from the start. This what people call it hashtag. In programming we call it a pound sign. The pound sign in Python is used to comment our code. This triple strings here, this triple quotes, is called a docstring. In the case of the pound sign up here, this it works for only one line of comments, and the reason why we comment our code is, this is just a beginning tutorial. You see how our code is numbered by the side here. Like when you get deep into programming, you find yourself writing like software with like 5,000 lines, 1,000 lines, maybe small applications, 500 lines, and all those kind of things. So you could be collaborating with people, or maybe you wrote your application maybe like a year or 2 years ago, 8 months ago, and it will be very helpful if you have that volume of code to comment your code, like I've done with Python data types here. Even if you're a beginner, like, and you open this, and you'll be able to derive one or two forms of meaning from what you see because of the descriptions, like written above, like the blocks of code or like your functions and all that. So this, but we have to be very careful. Let me just take this off here. If you don't close it properly, it just, you see how it just grays out everything down to this point. So you have to be very careful not to forget, or it will just take like a large chunk of your code as comments. So this you can use for multiple lines. I can write comments, or it's called a doc string, that's the technical term. But I can write a comment I can write a comment like all the way down here. Whereas in this case, if I just went to the next line and wrote something, you see it's white, not gray, which means it's active. It hasn't been commented out like this one up here. Okay, so there's that. Next, I want to talk about input and output. So let's just say in, okay, let me put it in a variable. Let me just say b equals, yeah. So our input function takes a string. It takes a string as input. Let me just say what is your name? I'll comment all this out. Why am I making so many mistakes? Okay, let me get rid of these. What's wrong here? There's too many of these today. I need to do another one here again. Okay, pardon me for that. I made too many comments today. So this is input. We're talking about input and output now. Why is this here? This is from something else. I don't even know what I was doing. Okay, input. So this is our input function, right? Whatever you type in, let me just save and run our code. So you see, what is your name? It gives you a prompt. What you put in the string is the prompt that you get, is the prompt that the input function will give. Like this now, what the value that the user is going to type is going to be stored in our variable b. Okay, so sorry, Sublime Text has a thing where it doesn't just, I'll do that with idle later, but that's what the input function does. Okay, now for output we have a print function. Let's just say c equals to print. Now you can also print variables. You can print values and variables. So I'm just going to pass the variable b that holds, we don't have any input yet, but you can, let me just say b is equal to, I should have said that all the way up there, I'm sorry. Let's just say b is equals to happy. Sorry, it should be a string. Yes, let's just say b is equals to happy. Then let's come down to our c variable and say print b. Okay, and save and run. See, we have happy. We have assigned happy to b, but I've also passed b to our print function, which is also assigned to c. So that's kind of like how programming works. And well, your computer, your interpreter, whatever, like, programs are read line by line from the top to the bottom. So there are some things where maybe you could put this down here, and this print function wouldn't have had access to B yet. So there's a way you structure your code, like the things you want to happen have to happen in a particular, is it sequence? Yeah, in a particular order. So we write our programs according to how it's meant to be executed, or how we want the computer to execute our program. So that's basic input and output. We have the input function and we have the print function. So these are our input and output functions in Python. Okay. Now I put typecasting right after these because if you, let's say, um, yes, that's exactly the example I want to give. Let's say our input, not let's say, our input function always accepts values as strings. So if you accept, when you want to, let's say, alright, sorry, let me just make this your, let's say, age. Okay. Alright. What is your, oh, sorry about that. What is your age? Let's just say the input function asks what is your age, and someone types in their age. What we can do, typecasting, is this. Let me do this. Now I can come here and write int, which is another reserved word in Python. What this, putting the input function inside another function inside parentheses, we call our round brackets parentheses in programming. What this does, this is typecasting. What this does is it forces the string that has been passed into the variable b to be an integer, because the input function accepts every value as a string. So even if he typed a number, it would be something like this, which I showed you up here. That is why we have typecasting, so he can, or your user can enter 24 as a string, or like 2 like this as a string, and this typecast, wrapping it in parentheses and using int, will force it to be a type integer. Let me just get rid of the input function. Let's just see how that works. Let's say, why do I keep doing that? And I did it again and again. Alright, let's just say this, what we have inside the parentheses is a string. Okay, so let's just say print type b, yes, type of our variable. Now let's run our code. You see we have a class integer. What is in the parenthesis here is a string, but because of the typecasting, because we wrapped it in the int function in this parentheses here, it now forces the 5 to become of type integer. Okay, so that is typecasting. Now we're going to talk about operators. Let me just, give me a second to, I said and let's say equality. Then next, let's addition, and subtraction, this, multiplication, exponential, division, floor division. What am I missing? Oh yeah, we have I think that's how to spell it, modulus. Yes, I think modulus. Then okay, let's do that, and let's do that too. Oh, okay. So now that we've got this done, let me take some time to talk about them one at a time. Um, we already talked about this. This is the assignment operator. It's just used to pass a value from one thing to another, like putting this string 5 into our variable b. You understand? So that's just assignment. And this is the equality operator. This is what it will look like in mathematics, but this is what it is in Python. This is how you test for equality, or if you're like any arithmetic you're doing, this is what you use. You can say, let's say 2 plus 2 why equals, or you can say let's say if 2 equals 2. This is how we check for equality. Like if these two numbers are equal, then do this or do that. Like we can change the direction of our program, but we'll get to that later in the. So this is just how we check for equality in Python. Then addition is basic, subtraction is basic, multiplication is this. Now when you use double asterisk, it stands for exponential. So if I were to say 2 asterisk 5, that will just raise 2 to the power of 5. That's exponential. Okay, and over here we have division. But the thing is, with division, it will always return a decimal. It will always return, let's say, like 2.0. Now, when we want floor division, when we want the answer, our value to not have a floating decimal point, like if we don't want a decimal place, we will use floor division. That's when you use two division signs, two forward slashes. So this will always give you an integer, even if it's a number that should have had, like, let's say 7.0098. It will chop all those things off and just give you an integer 7. So that is how we force Python to basically give us the values we want. Okay, so modulus gives you remainders. Modulus will only give you the remainder. It will take everything off and just give you the leftovers, like what is after the decimal. It will always give you the remainder. Alright. Plus equals basically just means, if I just say, let's say 2 plus equals 4, what this means is 2 is equals to 2 plus 4. You understand? Like let me just write that down, like 2 equals 2 plus 4. So this is what 2 plus equals 4 stands for. And the same thing goes for minus equals. So 2 minus equals 4 will be equal. It will be represented as 2 equals to 2 minus 4. You understand? So that is it for our operators. Now, operators. What the operators operate on are called operands. So no matter the data type, like if you were wait, I don't think that goes for strings. I don't know. I can't even remember if I've spoken about concatenation, but in the case, yes, I did. But I'll just say it again, anyways. If you have two strings and you use the plus operator on them, the addition operator on them, what it does is bring them together, not really double the amount of string you have like it would in the case of an integer. So this is just basic. I'm trying to not make this too long, and for absolute beginners I believe shorter is better. So I don't know, you can grab or grasp what we're talking about here today, and then we can go into like practicing with these and maybe control flow and other things. We'll talk about collections, lists, tuples, sets, decks, and all that in our next video. So if you liked this, please like and subscribe, and if there's something you think I should know or something I should have done better, please let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching. See you next time.